Matt, you will not believe what I found on the internet this week.
Are you going to be on a watch list, Carl?
Matt, that was a one-time thing, okay? It's not going to happen again. I'm talking about wargaming related stuff.
Hey, welcome to Mark's Game Room. Today we are on the internet. We are not all in my game room because Matt took a look at the new Revolution exclamation point releases from Warlord Games. It's just pre-order now, Matt, is that right?
That's right. It appears to be on pre-order, so will be released at some unknown time in the future.
And Matt
Soon.
appears to be an expert at analyzing what their frames or sprues are. And he was going through it, so we thought we would give you a look at what they're offering and our analysis of what you're going to get. So what did you see there, Matt?
That is already too much praise, but I'll do what I can.
This is like
So
he's analyzing every frame of the Zapruder film here.
that's right.
Right.
Slow it down, enhance. I
Oh, and
want
I'd
to see
also say,
closer.
like, the 250th anniversary, right? The Revolution is coming, so there might be a lot of games out there. And Carl and I were actually talking about doing like a Lexington and Concord, and Carl was looking into getting an army. So we thought we would see if this is a good option for us there, Matt,
Oh yeah.
and the rest of
So
our lovely war game community.
that's right. So I was surprised to see that they went to American War of Independence as their next project, but that's we now know that's what it is. They went from ancient straight to gunpowder. So the in terms of what we're seeing here, there are individual box sets that they're already teasing that you can pre-order right now, and for a combined sort of grand box. And just right off the bat, it's immediately obvious that the grand box is kind of what they want you to get and is easily the most cost effective. So that one clocks in at about 224 US dollars.
Yeah, let's see.
You're
What's that look like? Let's see it.
Yes, I will share my screen here.
Mega bundle.
Bundle.
Look at that bundle. So not only do you get a complete US and British Army, but you will also get a log cabin and the exclusive George Washington figure that they're implying you would not get any other way, which I think is pretty
Wow.
funny. You
Wow.
either get George Washington in this bundle or you don't get him at all.
Base figure. It's the rare, ultra rare
Ultra
Pokemon.
rare. We'll take a look at George Washington really fast.
Hey,
There
that's
he
not
is.
that's not a log cabin. That's a like a blockhouse or something.
It's a little blockhouse. That's right. We kind of wish it was a log cabin because then it might actually find some utility in your games.
Yeah. It's so
But
strange. How many battles in the field battles, the American Revolution involve a stockade looking thing like this? Like what is
I
this?
don't know. Yeah,
can't
that's
imagine it. So I guarantee you that this is going to be made by Sarissa Precision because they seem to make all of the MDF for these ranges.
mhm.
I'm going to guess that in the next couple weeks we will either hear or not hear whether they're going to make more terrain for this range. I'm assuming they probably will. Also, probably going to be
Yeah.
MDF.
Okay.
Um, and then the other weirdness for this set that you're not getting in other sets is this crew, which is the resin models for the individualized commanders. You're
Right.
going to get these kind of generic commanders. Seemingly, they'll be attached to one of the sprues. I'm thinking probably the cavalry sprue that will be just all the same model monopose across the board. But then you also get these in this set, which I'm assuming if you buy late, we'll have to buy separately. That I can almost guarantee you will be in resin. And they seem a little nicer. The fact that they're resin means they're not quite as flat. So if you want these individualized commanders, this is how you would get them. But other than that, these are kind of just expanded stock versions of the two armies that you would get if you bought the individual bundles, but at a much better price at $224.
Mhm.
Wow.
What are we getting here? What do you get for like the British side? I'd see quite a few things there.
Oh, so much. So we will zoom in.
Yeah.
So starting at the top, this looks like the Hessian Grenadiers. It looks like you get one set, which they're intending for you to use as a single large regiment. And it's
Mhm.
got one, two, three, four, five bases, it looks like, which is quite large. Or you
It
could
looks like
obviously break it up.
two of those are command stands, so you could split it maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, we have the drummer kind of command stand. I've been reliably told that the Grenadiers, because they're kind of compounded regiments, that they take the Grenadier detachments from different regiments and combine them all together into a combined regiment. They don't have banners. So their command stand is these two, where it has the little officer figure and the little drummer.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
think that was true with the Hessians. It was definitely true with the British. But I think the Hessians had actual grenadier
Grenadier
battalions.
regiments. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
so we
Yeah.
can put a counter up. This is our first alleged historical inaccuracy. So
Put an
there's
asterisk
a good
there.
start. So the
Alleged.
second alleged
Well,
asterisk. The second is a single, similarly sized five stand, it looks like, regiment of British Grenadier. And this one, if you peek really closely, only has the one command um, base on it, which is interesting. I don't, it calls into question to me how they're doing these sprues. It almost makes me think that there is a single sprue just for the Grenadiers that's
Hmm,
just loaded with Grenadiers with one command, which
right.
is not very flexible, but would lead to this because you have the one guy with the sword right in the middle there,
right. Well,
which is
they at least
interesting.
understand that it's a converged battalion here because if you look in, you can see they're
Converged.
all painted with different facings.
Right.
Yes, the cuffs are all different, at least for their like in-house painters.
Well, they
Yeah.
That's
have
all do it
the,
yourself, right?
but the Hessians, they have different paint jobs too. You can see the pants are different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that
They got buff.
accurate? Would
No,
the
that's not.
Hessians be converged too? No.
No, the Hessians were whole grenadier regiments.
There you go. Second historical inaccuracy. But that
Thank
one's the
you.
studio paint job problem more than
Yeah,
it is the
probably.
model, probably.
Right.
I guarantee you the model's the same.
Yeah.
All right, next up we have Hessian line, and it looks like they're giving you two sets or regiments that have four bases each, of which one of those bases, so you'll get two total for the two regiments, is a flag or command base. And there's you start getting two flags in your bases, which we'll come to later, and the one drummer and the one commander, and then the rest are all kind of the same guy over and over again.
What
Um,
do you think of the sculpt style here? I mean, if we zoom in, these guys are really close
yeah, we
shoulder to
can.
shoulder.
So they're
Oh
like
man, those
touching, like
mustaches.
7 Years War style touching shoulders. Maybe even weirder than that.
Well, I mean
Uh,
that I think that's appropriate, historically appropriate for the Hessians, right? Because right, Carl and I were talking earlier, the thinking, right, is that the British very quickly went to a more open formation,
mm,
right? But the Hessians didn't, right?
Yeah.
interesting. So
Yeah.
what would the appropriate distance do you think for the British look like? Would they have like a couple feet between each person or 1 foot?
Yeah. Well, I joked that the standard, like how wargamers base individual figures, where you put like four guys on a square base and they're kind of standing a little bit apart. That actually, ironically, is close to the truth for how the British quickly switched to operating in the colonies. There's a really good book with Bayonet and Zeal, I think it's called,
It's
Mark.
Zeal and Bayonet. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, that talks all about this.
Interesting. So that all right, that's our third historical inaccuracy so far, is the spacing on the British units, not so much the Hessians.
Right.
I mean, I
Um,
guess I would let that go to a certain degree. If you're because they have a style, they have a house style,
they
right?
Right.
That's
do
how
have
they
a
do.
style, yes.
I mean, I
And
agree with that. I agree with that.
it looks good.
Yeah.
Like it looks filled out. These look like big units because they are. Each one of those bases, we should mention, is two strips of 10 men. So
Hmm.
that's 20 men on a 60 by 20 base, which has its problems. It's very inflexible, difficult to use with other systems other than their own, but it is very full looking, which that's nice. Some people are really into that, which fair. So continuing down the British sort of collection here. There we go. We'll zoom in here. Okay. So next you have the British line. So they have two different unit sizes that they use, which makes this harder to read than it probably should be. They have the four base regiments that they call them large, and then they have three base regiments that they call small. You're going to get one small three base regiment of British line, and then six of those four base regiments of British line of the
Okay,
large ones.
you get a
So
lot of
that's
redcoats in
that's
this.
a lot.
Yeah.
I think my math on that is 24 total bases of British line, which is enormous.
Yeah.
And then lastly, for their infantry, until we get to lights and cav and artillery, you have
Well,
two.
let me just talk about that line infantry again.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with you that this warlord, they have a style, and that's what you're investing in here, right? These shoulder to shoulder looking guys, and it does look pretty impressive on the table. I mean, I like their ACW stuff, but as a historical painter historical miniaturist that likes a nice collection, one thing I would say is that these British line infantry have the headgear that was very rarely used, right? So really, when you look at this, you're looking at like Bunker Hill. And after that, in the Saratoga campaign, they all wear like a light infantry hat. And then in the Philadelphia and in the South, they all wear like a wide brim hat. So if you invest in this look, you really are just you're not going to get the truly historically accurate looking uniforms to paint.
Yeah. I think they're going for more of a Hollywood or
Right.
the soldier kind of look
Yeah.
for their figures, which I think depending on what your goal is, that might be good for you or not. But yeah, there's definitely not as much variety as other lines out there might have.
Right. So I just put that out there. I mean, they do have a nice look, but again, if you're really interested in making a collection that's really historically accurate, like this is going to give you more of the Hollywood look. So, all
So
right.
your mileage may vary, right?
Yes.
For some people, that's totally fine. The price tag maybe makes it
Right.
worth it. For others, that's a deal breaker.
Yeah.
Just something to keep in mind. So then the next is the militia. So they're interesting in that the militia seem to be, at least to my eye, shared models between the loyalist and the Americans, which kind of makes sense. It isn't necessary for you to really differentiate them enormously. It's not like they're in uniform. But just for what it's worth, they are the same model, seemingly. And you'll get two regiments at four bases each for the British side. But obviously, you could choose to make them more or less of the one side or the other because they're the same models. And you're going to get a combined flag sheet. So if you want to share flags over from the one side to the other, you're fine doing that. Uh, then to round out the infantry, we have a bunch of light stands of different kinds. And to me, these are actually some of the more interesting. I find that the flat nature of these super long strips means that the models, especially the cavalry, tend to look a little flat, especially from one direction. So in this case, from the sides. But these individual models tend to be a little better at that. So we have the one set of Native Americans, which is just three bases. So what do you folks think? Are you going to be able to do everything you need with that? Is that probably enough Native Americans for your
I think
purposes?
so. I mean, there are shockingly few in major field, but I
Yeah.
can't think of two field battles where
There's
maybe
really just the Oriskany is the one that's got quite a few, but other than that, mainly Saratoga, and they're just gonna that would be probably plenty. So
yeah.
Makes sense.
yeah.
Then you have, again, only one, so the same number of British light infantry. Does that seem right?
No.
No, actually, you need a ton more lights.
There we go. So that's a bit of a problem because this is the largest set you can get, and we don't know how these sprues are made yet. So if you want to expand that light infantry, you're either going to have to find some other manufacturer that makes the same scale, which to date, these seem to be a little bit creeping towards 15 mil, like true 15. It used to be that the epic scale stuff was 13.5 from foot to eye, which is a unique scale that no one made. But now they're kind of creeping up, especially with the pike and shot. I don't know so much the ancients. So there are other manufacturers that are kind of close. So you might have to look farther afield if you want to
Yeah.
expand your
Well,
light infantry.
and worse than that, and Mark can maybe speak to this more, but from my understanding, there were many lights deployed like this as skirmishers, but a lot of the time the light infantry regiments fought as formed regiments, or I should say
Find
that
out.
similar to the grenadiers,
Right.
converging companies from a bunch of it. So you almost need more like shoulder to shoulder in their style light infantry guys as well, which it looks like they're not even making.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
And we
exactly.
can talk,
Yeah.
like I'm guessing if this is super successful, that they'll come back and make all the stuff that they're missing, but it's just a guess. And if they don't, and there's no other manufacturer at this scale that will match nicely, you're just out of luck. You're not going to
Right.
get
That is
a
true.
line light unit where they're fighting shoulder to shoulder. It's not going to exist for you.
Right.
Or Highlanders or any of these other more unusual
Well,
units.
Matt, I just took a look at this Warlord Facebook group, and they are going to be releasing Highlanders in the trews or the long pants. So they looks like they will kind of support this range with some more oddball units as you go forward.
Can we talk about these? I don't want to say atrocious. That's mean, but the dragoons that are in the
Oh, no, no. Let's finish the lights and I will get to my spiel in the cavalry.
yeah.
And I might use the word atrocious. Uh, don't box me out of that one. So the last one here are the rifles, and you somehow get more rifles. I guess these are supposed to be Jaegers. Are they
Yeah, the
Hessian
Jaeger,
Jaegers?
Hessian Jaeger.
You get twice as many of them as you get British lights. Does that seem right?
The Hessians, you usually would have like one unit of Hessian Jaegers, and then the lights, they would just deploy as a battalion. So it just, yeah, it seems kind of weird to me.
Mm,
I should say you don't get quite twice as many. You get five bases. They have a tiny set and a larger set, two and three. So
okay.
for whatever that's worth, which also confuses me as to how these frames are going to be aligned. But you might be able to glean some hints off of it from that. So that now we'll go to to Carl's favorite, the I would say atrocious cavalry. I've seen a lot of pretty bad cavalry from the epic ranges. I think these are maybe the worst I've seen. Uh, Maybe the really early, like Napoleonic, some of their cavalry were worse, but these are just so flat to me, and they've picked such unusual poses, especially for like the ones in the top. They're leaning to the side, but in such a noticeable way. So you just really pick up on the fact that they're all the same guy.
Mhm.
I just hate them.
But these are in this weird pose. Like it's, I don't know, like they're kind of doing some kind of aquatic, like synchronized swimming or something, it's
It
kind of
just
weird.
really, the strangeness of their pose really
Yeah.
pulls out your
Yes.
attention at
Right.
how similar they all are. But
Right.
if they were in more of like a field manual doctrinal, just
Yeah.
resting pose or something, it would be fine.
Yeah.
I just think it's strange, and I know we should move on, but I do think it's strange that so there were two dragoon regiments that fought in the American colonies for the British, and two ones from actual Britain, I should say, the 16th and 17th, and so they have both of them represented here.
Right. With correct headgear.
Yeah, and that just seems like for a set that's so like conservative otherwise, it just seems needlessly extravagant. Like, couldn't you have just done two poses of one regiment so that there
Yeah.
is more variety? Like,
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah. Which they're used to doing. If you look at their other ranges, like their pike and shot range, they have like 10 or 12 different kinds of cavalry. I realize that the representation of cavalry should be much smaller here, but they could probably have subbed out one of the two commanders that I'm assuming you get per sprue, because you're getting eight commanders
Yeah.
mounted in this set. I'm assuming that's between two and four
Well, I
sprues.
think ironically that's kind of the answer because probably these two bases are enough for most games
Yeah.
to play the amount of cavalry that was in the American
True.
Revolution.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
But yet they look just so bad, I would even struggle to field them.
Yeah. I would, yeah, terrible.
It's rough. To be fair, if you're gonna swap in something from another range, finding a way to get 10 extra horsemen, cavalry, dragoons from another range is probably the easiest thing you can do. So
True.
it's not like it's not like you have to find a new range for all of your militia and you'll just be, why would I even buy this? This is a tiny part of the whole set. But it really does just smack me in the face with how awful
And
it is.
it looks like you get three identical bases of cannon there, which honestly
Yes.
not big a deal for me.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
nice little
fine. Yeah.
cannon. They look good.
Yeah. And that rounds out our British side. So we can move to the Americans, who honestly are just far less. There's far less variety in the American set.
Ugh, the rebel.
So they're that's right. They're actually implying a lot more variety. I feel like if you zoom out, they had to work to make the American side look as varied by breaking out the fact that there are, because if you actually look at this, there are only two line infantry types that the Americans have. There's the militia and the Continentals, as there should be, I guess, unless they maybe could have expanded a little bit. The British have one, two, three, four, five different types that they're representing. So there's a huge difference in how much variety you get from the American side. And they try to make it look like less by breaking out the big units of militia and continentals from the little ones. So we have at the very top a single 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 base militia set for the Continentals. And then we have 5 of the 4 base, a little bit smaller militia sets.
Yeah.
And then you proceed to the 2 4 base Continentals and the 1 3 base Continentals. And that's the majority of the American representation here.
I mean, to me, the American side historically looks fine, right? I mean, the militia look decent. The
Yeah.
line infantry looks fine.
Oh yeah.
The cavalry looks atrocious.
Yeah, same
Oh
same
yeah.
I mean,
Exact same
same
problem.
problem.
But no, and I think the reason that they're always looking to the side, seemingly as their preference, is that there is going to be this really horrific mold line down the center of their body as they are flat on. So they want to keep that away from the face as much as possible because that's what people focus on.
Okay,
So
that's
they're really trying to do whatever they can to avoid that. But it is here at the cost of looking very strange in mass.
Just getting into the size question for a sec. I actually am, we were pretty certain that with the British you had enough to play most battles. I'm actually not certain that's the case with the American assortment. Like, believe it, there's some battles where the Americans field just a lot of militia and a lot of sort of crappier continentals, and I wonder, if you might need to get a second one of these boxes or like purchase a few supplemental packs to get enough to field some of the biggest battles of the
Hmm.
Rovers. Which maybe that's not a criticism. I think, but it's worth thinking about here. You also get comparatively few of these skirmishers here, which
Yes.
you may
I
want to.
think there are 2 things to keep in mind for that. One is that I think that the easiest thing you would be able to do with this range is buy more militia, because I think they're going to just be a frame with all the militia. So I think that expanding that is probably the least difficult of the expansions you'll have to do, but the skirmishers not so much, because I'm guessing that the skirmishers are probably these are American only skirmishers. You don't see them replicated in the British side. So I think they're probably co-located on a strip with the or sprue with the American cav and American guns.
Hmm.
Just given the numbers of what I see here.
So,
Uh,
well, let's so now that we've kind of looked at this, and it's
Yeah,
what 225 bucks, I think, for all this stuff. We talked earlier about Pendraken, which
yeah,
is 10 mil, so it's a little shorter than these. But I do know that they have really kind of a full range of historic uniforms. You can get all the different headgear,
yeah.
you get Highlanders and all that. And you did a little looking at how much it might cost to go that route. So comparatively, what did you find out?
Yeah, so preface this by saying I think Pendraken's range is so wide that you can get tons of different poses, you can get tons of different uniforms. They have all little units that only appeared, in a couple battles, like really anything you could possibly want. And they're really beautifully sculpted, probably the best 10 mil sculpts out there, I think. So I created like kind of a fictitious basket that's like enough to play all but the biggest battles, right? Like just a complete collection, sort of to try and be as equivalent to this as possible and to be fair to this as possible. And it came out to a little over $500. So maybe more with shipping, but it's basically about twice as much as the Warlord
Yeah.
box.
And Matt,
Um,
Matt, can you bring up the Pendraken website?
yeah,
Absolutely.
take a look at some of these beautiful figures from them.
So, I mean, you said it was about twice as expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We want American War of Independence. Is it going to be
18th
somewhere there?
It's
century.
19th,
I
10,
think 18th
It should
century.
be
18th
18th
century.
century. And
What are
then
you
we
guys?
want
American
American
War
War
of
of
Independence.
Independence.
The American public schooling system is failing quicker than we imagined here.
So much faster. There
So already you see there's
you go.
Highlander.
Here's our Highlander that we're missing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But in the South, the Highlanders didn't wear kilts. And I think
yeah,
this company even has that version, I
yeah.
think.
They
So
have
here's the
There.
Highlander Center
Right. So
Company
there's the Highlanders that fight in the
pants.
South.
they
And you'll
also have the
notice
alternate
And they also have the
uniforms.
different headgears.
you'll
Yeah,
notice that their price seems to be 30 figures for $10.
yeah,
10 and change. And that seems to be kind of across the board. Or they sell some of these smaller, like grenadier units. That's kind of nice of them that they break them into smaller units if they think you'll need less.
Mhm.
For 18 for 6.
Mhm.
Again, not so bad. And their cavalry, we'll find some. I
There's
may
the
have to
ultimate
scroll away.
cut down coats there. Yeah.
Here we go. Light Dragoons in Emsdorf helmet, sorry. $10 for 15.
That's you only need one bag,
Yeah.
probably.
I think
And
that's
that's right. And they're already beating the poses because they got 4 poses.
yeah.
That's pretty good. Oh, sorry. They have 6 poses. They have 4 trooper poses, an officer, a musician, and a standard bearer.
Yeah.
7.
So
That's a lot
you
better.
get a lot of variety there. Yeah.
That's right. Do they have a commander set? Here they do. Mounted officers, they already are giving you 6. You're not going to get the same one 8 times. So
Yep.
And if you just
this,
look to the right, you got the Saratoga looking uniform. Then you have the round hat uniforms.
yeah, they have that very specific
Right.
looking Saratoga hat.
Yeah. So, you know, it is more expensive, but you do know that you have a huge variety of
Yeah.
figures.
So
Oh,
I guess the question that kind of arises, Mark, is, I'm looking to start an American Revolution collection. For me, my second one, but let's put that aside.
all right. Hey, Matt, why don't you kill the website then?
Oh, that's right.
Um,
I thought you were gonna say kill the webcam because we
yeah.
got we're talking about your 28s.
Sorry. Let me redo that. So I guess the big question that arises, Mark, is, if I'm somebody who's looking to start a new American Revolution collection, for me, my second one, but let's not talk about that. Um, and I want to get, the British and the Americans start a whole collection in this kind of scale. Which one would I go with? Do you guys have thoughts?
I think it's really depending on what you want to do with your figures and how you see your collection, right? Like I have a huge Napoleonics collection and a large ACW collection. I'll feature it someday in a video. And what I love about it is that over the years it's grown, right? And I have different figures, I have different paint jobs. And sometimes when I pull it out, I go, "Oh wow, these figures, I painted those so long ago. I was a different person when I painted them, and they remind me of that," right? So a collection can do that. And the Warlord stuff, like just it definitely traps you, it seems like, in one style with very little opportunity to do anything with. You can't break those frames apart. I mean, those strips. So it's really difficult. And you have one pose of cavalry, right? So I think if you're someone who just wants to buy one box and here you go, this is enough to play a game, and you're not so much into the history of the uniforms, then it's probably a pretty good deal because it's got everything you want. It's all there and you can do it. But if you really want to geek out about finding out the historical accuracy of the uniforms and the times and all that, this is going to limit you. And it's going to be very hard for you to break out of it. It really, you buy a big box and it puts you in that box. But it's a good price point. So if you want to play
Yes.
into the Warlord way of things, do it. But if you want more flexibility, I think you're going to be stuck.
Yeah.
So
I guess. Oh,
oh,
go ahead,
go
Matt.
ahead. So I really appreciate where Warlord sits in the kind of gaming space as uh, the sort of entry point for a lot of people, especially people coming out of Warhammer or Age of Sigmar, what have you, where it does what they do, where it gives you everything you need. And for a new player who might be confused by having to go to one place for rules and another place for miniatures and have to be told which miniatures to buy and
Right.
all these decisions, it's giving you the complete package all at once. It's
Right.
saying, use
Yeah.
these rules that we've made for this, that have all these beautiful, nice drawings in them and pictures of great miniatures, and use these miniatures exactly at a decent price point that are maybe a little on the toy soldiery side, but you probably don't care so much.
Right.
And it will make them cheaper because we don't have to make 15 different versions of each guy. And you could even play with them unpainted. They're probably going to issue them to you in red and blue colored
Right.
plastic anyway.
Sure.
So as an entry point for someone who's really new, this is excellent. As someone who's really used to painting those strips, of which there are now a lot of people who are really good at it, because they're fast. You're painting almost like one miniature with lots of little details
Mhm.
instead of 10, 20 little miniatures.
Right.
Also, potentially really great. And it may be worth the lack of historical accuracy and fidelity to do that for them. So I really appreciate the place that they have in our wider bucket of
Hmm.
miniature painters
Right.
and miniature wargamers. But at least for me, I would take issue with the fact that their basing is super restrictive and that you can't really easily port this to other games without issues. And exactly what Mark said, that there are uh, so many limitations in what I expect they're going to produce out of this range, because I don't know that they're going to make a lot of expansions to this. And as
Right.
Carl said, if you need to expand little parts of it, like add more skirmishers, you're probably going to struggle because they're probably going to come with a bunch of stuff you don't want. Because they're not just going to sell you the skirmishers. They're going to sell you skirmishers on a sprue with a bunch of other stuff, or you're going to pay extra for some resin specialized thing like Highlanders if they ever make them.
Right.
So I think there's definitely a place for them, and I'm glad they made them,
Yeah,
but I
for
don't know that they're for everybody.
One final thing I would say is that I think for people who value the miniature wargaming hobby as like an art, for the hobby element of painting, I think that these are going to be a struggle, right? Because you're painting thousands of guys, and I know people who bought that Civil War one, which came out what, like 5 years ago now, and are still working on it, right? So I think the going with something like Pendraken lets you enjoy all these different poses and do little mini projects and maybe not burn out quite as easily going through them. And yeah, the flexibility is huge for me. Someone who really doesn't have any interest in black powder and wants to play other war games, right? Like, what if you want to use these for Rebels and Patriots or British Grenadier or Live Free or Die or one of these other cool rule sets for the American Revolution? You're going to have a tougher time. You're going to have to kind of house roll some stuff with the black powder bases. So, yeah, I think for me, even with the price, I think it's, I think I would probably go with Pendraken. Not the least of which because they're a really nice company to deal with. Not to say that Warlord isn't, but I kind of feel as though I'm supporting a more, I don't want to say mom and pop aspect of the hobby, but like certainly a more independent distributor versus the mega corporation, right? You know, that's just my point of view on that.
And to be fair, Warlord is like there's no competition in how big Warlord is compared to like a Warhammer, but they're definitely bigger than Pendraken.
no, I mean, I think that seems like a really that's an interesting look at that box that's coming out. I was really excited when I heard it was coming out because I still want to do Lexington and Concord, right, Carl, with you, maybe
Yeah.
Bunker Hill. I mean, I grew up in Boston, so I'm all about that. Um, and so I was really excited, but when I looked at the box as an old school historical gamer, for that from that perspective, not I was not excited about it. It limits me too much. But I think Matt, you make a really good point that if you're out there, you don't have AWI, you really want to start something, this is an easy way in. Although Carl's point is well taken, it's an easy way in, but it could be a big chore to paint that many figures, right? And you,
Oh
you
yeah.
could kind of like burn out pretty quick. So take that with, for what it means there. So
And we were talking actually before we recorded, not to give free clout to yet another group, but if you're not so interested in the models, because these are essentially like kind of zhuzhed up toy soldiers,
right.
Sure.
more than many manufacturers. These are very toy soldiery and generic. And if you're already gonna do that, you might consider using like tokens or in lieu of models or even like those, I think they're Woe Fun games, the like flat acrylic models with the Osprey pictures pasted over them, because then you don't paint anything, and they probably cost about the same.
Right.
But if you're in that little space where you're kind of new into this hobby, you really like the models, you don't care so much how historically accurate they are, these are kind of perfect for you.
Yeah. Cool.
Def-
All right. Well, that was awesome. Thanks, Matt, for your perspective on that. Carl, always good to see you. Hey, if you're watching, stick with us. This was a little break from our samurai stuff that we've been doing the past couple of weeks because this just came out. We wanted to talk about it. But we have Battle of Sekigahara coming. It's going to be really great. We're going to give you a tour of Matt's Seven Samurai 28 millimeter collection, which is amazing because we are going to do a Seven Samurai campaign. And if we start our Patreon, if you're one of our members, you get to vote on how to defend the village. It's really totally cool. So thanks for sticking with us. Please hit the like button. It really helps us get out there. If you haven't subscribed, do. And if you want to hear more painting videos or review videos or unboxing videos, let us know in the comments. It's great to see you all, and we will see you next time.
See you, everybody.
Take care, folks. Thank you.